we have to be very careful, especially the women, especially those of you who are sisters. You have to be very careful. You do have an enemy. You have an adversary. When Satan approached Eve, Eve did not know that Satan was the enemy. You have an adversary. And your adversary wants you to do something that Yah doesn't want you to do. Yeah, your adversary, your enemy, wants to deceive you into doing something that Yah doesn't want you to do. That was the same thing that he did with your mother, your ancestor Eve. So Satan wants you to disobey the commandment of Yah. Satan wants you to disobey the commandments of Yah. Like Eve, your ancestor. Many of you are not aware of this. And Satan is coming at you with the same deception that he came to Eve with. And Satan is trying to give you certain impression, like he gave to Eve. He wants to give you the impression that yes, Yah said that, but it doesn't matter if you don't do it. Yes, Yah said that, but it doesn't matter if you do it the other way. And having been doing what I do, I have come across a lot of sisters and a lot of brothers, and I have observed certain things. And I've observed the same thing that happened in the Garden of Eden happening to some sisters, which is where Yah clearly says, don't do this. And Satan is now causing them to do it. And you're dealing with a spirit. So Satan will stir up your spirit to do something that Yah clearly tells you not to do. But Satan will give you a justification. You will have a justification to justify why you're doing it. I see that. So this is the reason why you see women that teach the Bible. And they will give you different reasons. You ask 10 different women who are teaching the Bible on YouTube, on television, Joyce Meyer, Watchman Report, Deborah, yeah, whatever her name is. Ask 10 different women why they are teaching the Bible. They will give you 10 different answers. The explanation that I had from the Hebrew Israelite, Deborah, yeah, her explanation was something you see in Luke chapter 2. So there was a Hebrew woman who got married. And if you read her story, you can tell that she got married at a very young age. So her husband died. When her husband died, she decided. She got married, I think she was married for about 7 years or so, something like that. So after her husband died, she decided not to get married again. So after her husband died, she basically packed her stuff and she went to begin to live in the house of Yah. She wasn't living in the actual house of Yah, but because the temple is huge, it's huge, and there are the holy areas, and then there are the non-holy areas, and then there are the courts. So after worship, we will go into the court and go stay there and just relax, eat and talk and study or whatever. So when Yeshua was meeting people every day, they were not actually meeting inside the holy area. They were meeting in the court area. So this woman decided that she was going to serve Yah for the rest of her life. She decided that she doesn't want to get married again, but rather she's going to dedicate the rest of her life in serving Yah. So she decided that the way she's going to serve Yah is to go stay in the temple and be a cleaner, be like a maid. So she became a maid at the temple, cleaning the temple, in like keeping it clean and cleaning stuff, and that was what she was doing. And she was doing this for like 86 years before Yeshua was born. So she's been doing this for about 86 years or something like that before Yeshua was born. That was what she decided that she's going to do. So by the time Yeshua was born, this woman, she was now a very old woman. She was an old woman by the time they gave birth, or Miriam was pregnant with Yeshua. And she was doing that for a long time, for more than 80 years. She was doing this. So, but her job, because in the temple, you have the high priest, you have the Levite in the temple. Okay, there was an order. There are the high priest, the Levites, doing the work of Yah. So this woman was not doing the work of Yah with them, as in chopping off the heads of ram, chopping off the heads of goat, slaughtering animal and offering sacrifice. That's not what she was doing. Her job is to clean the temple, keep it clean, sweep it, clean stuff. That was her job in the temple. She wasn't inside the tabernacle, in the holiest of the holy, kneeling in front of Yah with the priest. She wasn't doing that. So her way of serving Yah was to be there and basically be like a housekeeper there. Now, if you listen to Deborah Yah, according to her, so her explanation for teaching the Bible and teaching men is that woman was in the temple and she was educating those that came to the temple to seek knowledge. That is so deceptive. That is so, for someone to say such a thing, that is so she said, and you can go see that video, because I told you people do send me videos, right? People send me videos sometimes to watch, but I saw a video. I saw a video. I watched a video where she gave you explanation of why she does what she does, and she quickly glanced over it. She quickly just went over it. She doesn't go into details like I went into details right now, telling you what that woman was doing in the temple, because you had the high priest, you had the Levite doing the work of Yah, and they were not doing these things with that woman, but rather she was doing something that was more appropriate for her. She chose that she's going to be there. Somebody needs to clean the house anyways. She would rather just do that for the rest of her life. That was her own way of serving Yah. So, but according to Deborah Yah, the wife of Watchman Report, she said that, what about that woman? She was like, for all you men that are talking about women are not supposed to teach, what about the woman? What about the sister in the temple? She was in the temple serving Yah. And when people come to the temple to seek knowledge, she impacted them with knowledge. There's the way that she said it. She said something like that. Basically, she was saying that woman was over there, and when people come to seek the truth, they basically come to her. Are you kidding me? So that's her justification for teaching the Bible. But that's not really, she's not being honest. You need to have a better justification. If you're going to do it, right, have a better justification. You don't want to give people justification that they hear your justification and they think like they feel insulted. If you give me that kind of a reason, I feel like you're insulting my intelligence, because there are people who are in that temple. There's the high priest, you have the Levite, you have the scribes and the Pharisees who were teaching the law. So the idea that when someone comes into the house of Yah, which by the way, not everybody is allowed. Not everybody is allowed. If you're a Gentile and you show up there, they will throw you throw you so fast, like they would throw you out so fast your head will be spinning around. Not everybody is allowed inside that temple. You have to be a Hebrew to be allowed in there. If you're a Gentile, for you to be allowed, there has to be a serious confirmation that you're circumcised and that you're keeping the law. You can't just show up in there. That's the reason why people were basically fighting with Paul, because they saw Paul with a couple of Gentiles on the street, not in the temple, on the street. If you read the book of Acts of Apostles, I really encourage you, listen to the audio Bible. That will make it easy for you. Listen to audio Bible of Acts of Apostles. You will go through it really fast. So you see that at some point, they were looking for reasons to accuse Paul of breaking the law. They couldn't find a way they can accuse him of breaking the law, because in order for them to condemn you, in order for you to be condemned, they have to be able to catch you breaking a law. They couldn't catch Paul breaking the law of Yah. So they saw Paul on the street. Israelites saw Paul walking on the street. They were like, so they decided to basically make up, well, if he's walking on the street with some Gentiles, then he must have brought them into the temple. That's what they were saying. But that's not true. He never brought those Gentiles into the temple. That was a false accusation. Just because he was walking on the street with the Gentiles doesn't mean that he brought them into the temple. But that's the lie that they were trying to create to trap Paul, because they were so furious and they were trying to figure out a way. In order for you to condemn a man, you must accuse him and convict him of breaking a certain law of Yah. Like Paul himself told the congregation to have that man be killed who raped or had sex with his father's wife. So Paul tells them to kill, to basically send that man over to to the Romans to have him killed. So they couldn't figure anything out, and they decided, well, if he is walking around, because Paul doesn't live over there. Paul did not live. He used to live in Jerusalem. Eventually he left and went to Rome because Yeshua said so. Yeshua told him to go to Rome and go preach the gospel to the Gentiles. So once in a while he will come back, like we see in Acts chapter 18. Once in a while he does come back, and during the feast. During the feast he will come back to Jerusalem and observe the feast, and then he will leave. So he did came back with some Gentiles, and he never took them into the temple. He knows better not to do that. So, but then they began to accuse him falsely. Well, if he's walking around with these Gentiles, he must have... Oh, by the way, how do they know that those people were Gentiles? Because they look different. Because they look different. They were not like Hebrews. They were European type looking people. So that's why they were able to know that they were Gentiles by seeing them walking on the street. Like you see me walking around with a Chinese, you know that I'm walking around with a Gentile. You see me walking around with someone that looks like me. He could be Indian. He could be African. He could be Kenyan. He could be Sudanese, Somali. It's hard for you to tell whether he's Hebrew or not because he looks just like me. But you see me with an European, you know that, oh, definitely. We saw him walking around with some Gentiles. He must have taken them into the temple. That's what you're going to assume if you really want to put me in trouble. Same thing the other way around. When the Romans saw Paul, when Paul was arrested, eventually they were able to trap Paul. And they arrested Paul, and eventually the Romans took Paul. There was a Roman soldier that saw Paul. And he said to Paul, "Hey, aren't you that Egyptian that led a rebellion? Aren't you that Egyptian?" Now, you need to understand that back in the day, it's not like now that I can tell you I'm British, I'm French. Doesn't work like that. If I tell you that I'm Chinese, you're not gonna believe that. I have to actually be born in China. I have to actually look like a Chinese to be a Chinese. So this nonsense of having an Indian man or African man go to America and all of a sudden he's now America. These are some of the crap and confusion that the Gentiles have created. The Gentiles have created this confusion. So it's not, if you go to, I don't care how many years you live in China, the Chinese will never consider you to be a Chinese. You have to look like them for them to consider you to be Chinese. I don't care how many years you live in Japan, they would never consider you to be Japanese. Because you have to be one of them for them to consider you to be one of their own. Only Americans and Europeans have this illusion that you can go get their passport and you become an American. So they are not living in reality. They are delusional. So it's the same thing back then. So for you to be an Egyptian, you have to actually be an Egyptian. So you can't see someone from another nation telling you that he's an Egyptian. If you're Egyptian, you're an Egyptian. That's the reason why. So the Egyptians were not like the Egyptians you see today. Egyptians were not Europeans, let me put it that way, or white people. They're not like that. So for this man to say to Paul, are you not that Egyptian? If you go and study about the Egyptians, you can see what they look like. So that was a big clue that unfortunately for these people, they were not able to erase that from the Bible. And from there you can be like, why is this Roman soldier asking Paul, are you not that Egyptian? And if you understand the culture back then, which I've given you example with some cultures you see today, like the Chinese, like the Japanese, if you claim that you're Japanese and you're not actually real Japanese, they will not accept you. They will not do that. Most nations don't do that. Only the Europeans are doing this. So that's the way it was. That's the way it has always been. So for that man to say to Paul, are you not that Egyptian that led a rebellion? Aren't you the Egyptian that led a rebellion? And Paul said, no, I am not the Egyptian I'm not that Egyptian. For Paul to be described like that gives you a clue. So all you need to do now is that you now need to go and find out, what did the Egyptians look like? That's all you have to do. What did the Egyptians look like? And if you were able to see what they look like, you will then understand who Paul really was, because he is not what you see in Hollywood movies. So just for those who are curious about this information, you can find it in Acts of Apostle, Acts chapter 21, verse 38. So Acts chapter 21, verse 37 and 38. Acts chapter 21, that's where you're going to see this information. Just as Paul was about to be brought into the barracks, he said to the tribune, may I say something to you? The tribune replied, do you know Greek? Then you are not. Do you know Greek? Then you are not the Egyptian who recently stirred up a revolt and led 4,000 assassins out into the wilderness. Verse 39, Acts 21:39. Paul replied, I am a Jew, or I am a Yehuda, from Tarsus in Sicilia. So that's a citizen of an important city. I beg you, let me speak to the people. Verse 40, Acts 21, verse 40. When he had given him permission, Paul stood on the steps and motioned the people for silence. And when there was a great hush, he addressed them in Hebrew language, saying to them, chapter 22, Acts chapter 22, verse 1, brothers and fathers, listen to the defense that I now make before you. When they heard him addressing them in Hebrew, they became even more quiet. And then he goes on to address them. So, Paul was not an European. So, there is something that, going back to what I'm addressing the sisters, some of you, those of you that are able to get this, it will be well for you, you will benefit. Those of you that are not able to get it, it will be to your disadvantage. The war that began in the garden is still going on. And it's even worse. It's even worse now because we're no longer in the presence of the Most High. And our enemy was kicked out of heaven. He now dwells with us. So, speaking about, when I said that if you ask women that teach, 10 women will give you 10 different reasons of why they're teaching. A wise woman will not be teaching the law of Yah. There's so many other things you could do. So many other things. But you know what? This is going to be like that forbidden fruit. This will be like that forbidden fruit. And unfortunately, most of you will not be able to resist it. Most of you will not be able to resist it. And you're going to end up being like your mother, Eve. The things that Yah tells us to do, consider it to be that forbidden fruit. Satan will always try to give you the impression that there's a lot of benefit, a lot to gain when you actually do what Yah tells us not to do. So, nobody will give you a legitimate reason. I have not had a legitimate reason why they are doing what they're doing in terms of teaching the Bible. They will always give personal reasons. Well, I think. Well, I feel. Well, I think. Well, I feel that the Spirit is leading me. I feel that the Lord is telling me to do it. The Spirit is leading me. The Spirit is leading me. My spirit tells me. How can Yah tell you something that is contrary to his own word? It says in Sirach chapter 15 that he has not caused anyone to sin. How can the Bible say one thing and your spirit is saying something else? That should be a red flag. There are all kinds of spirits. We have different types of spirit. Multiple types of spirit. Good spirit, bad spirit. Good spirit, bad spirit. Talking about spirit. So there was a person a king that Yah needed to deal with him. And one of the angels offered himself. He offered himself to go be a lion spirit. To go be a lion spirit to that Second Chronicles. So one of the angels decided to go and become a lying spirit, and basically lied to the king. So there are different types of spirit. So I'm not really impressed when you tell me that the spirit is telling you to do something, the spirit is pushing you to do something, the question is, what spirit? We have evil spirit, we have evil spirit, we have Holy Spirit, we have all kinds of spirit. So just because someone says that the spirit is making them to do something, which spirit? That's the question. So anything that a spirit tells you to do that contradicts what Yah had already said in his word, that's not a spirit from Yah. So if you hear a voice, or you hear a voice or whatever, but whatever that thing is according to, it's against what Yah had said, then in that case it's not a spirit from Yah, because Yah is not going to contradict himself, like it says in Sirach chapter 15. So Yah will never contradict himself. The Most High will never ask you to that should be a red flag. And if we're being honest, then we should know that, no, yes, I may have this feeling, but it's against the word of Yah. So that's the reason why we should always let the scriptures be our guide in whatever we do, rather than following our heart. It's easy to follow our heart. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because you may find yourself, let's say you happen to run into two other people and you start congregating. Yah may be testing you, and Yah does test us. Yah may be testing you to see what you will do. So Yah may test you in the terms of that the two other people that you run into may not be serious. They may not have the same zeal that you have towards the things of Yah. They may not have that zeal. So you may find yourself being the one that is pulling them, leading them. And in that case, before you realize it, you're going to find yourself sitting there in a living room, opening the Bible and teaching the Bible. And what's going to be happening, Yah will actually be tempting you to see what you will do. And what will happen in that case is that you are going to see it differently. You will see that Yah is leading you to do this. It's not funny, but that's how you're going to see it. You will see that Yah is leading you to do this, and the only reason why it's possible is because Yah is making you to do it. And then so before you realize it, you begin to justify it. So that would not be a wise thing to do. That would not be a wise thing. If you are in that situation and you're not able to see, this is something that Yah doesn't want women to do. Again, it goes back to, I started out mentioning Satan deceiving Eve. Did you know what Eve did? Eve basically tampered with Yah's law. So Yah says, don't break that law. Keep my commandment. Eve broke that commandment. So we no longer, like the reason that was given to us in the New Testament, that's the reason why women are not allowed to teach or to speak in the congregation. What does it mean to speak in the congregation? So let's say we are meeting physically right now, you grab a mic and you begin to speak, relating to the teachings of Yah, and begin to speak. That's what anything that has to do with Yah's law and teaching Yah's law, Yah does not want you to mess with it. The reason is because of what Eve did. Because the first time that Eve tried it, that did not work. That did not work very well. That ended very badly. And I'm sure that Eve himself regretted ever doing it. So because of that, Yah basically banned you from teaching and dealing with the word, teaching the law, dealing with Yah basically forbade you. So doing that, Satan will try to give you the impression, oh, you have the ability, you can speak, you have the capability, you have the knowledge, you have this, when Yah doesn't want you to do it. So what happens in that case? You're going to end up like Eve. You're going to end up in the same situation, because here you have something that Yah doesn't want you to do, and here you have this thing that is telling you in your mind that it's actually the will of Yah for you to do it, and is this and is that, and it won't be any problem, and is this. So it would not be a good idea to do that. So I have to clarify this. I know that not everybody is going to accept it. I know that not everybody is going to do it. For those that want to, for those, when that opportunity comes up, for those that will ignore this and go ahead and do it and begin to teach the Bible, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. But there will be a great punishment. There will be a great, because that's against the will of Yah. So if someone, even if someone is begging you and pushing you to do it, tell them no, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So because Yah is going to test you, the Messiah will tempt you to see how you're going to react. So for those those that are wise, they will say no, thank you very much. Those that are fools, they will begin to tell themselves that Yah is the one who is giving them this opportunity. Yah is the one that is doing this. Yah is the one that is telling, okay. So for those kind of people, go ahead, okay? Go find you some building, go create you some YouTube channel, go ahead and teach. But the thing is that there will be consequences. And when that time comes, as it came for those people in the time of Noah, when they were drowning, all those that were skeptical about the idea that the world will be flooded, it was too late. When you're drowning, that's not the right time that's not the moment you want to reflect about your decision not to believe. That's the wrong time. So the wrath of Yah is going to come. Everything has been prepared. The Gentiles have the nuclear weapons. It's going to go down just like Yah have said in his prophecies that it will happen. So this is the time to fix things and make things right. When his wrath begins, that's not the right time to be asking for forgiveness. This is the time to ask for forgiveness. This is the time for repentance. This is the time to do the right thing, because that wrath has not begun yet. His wrath is only on us, the Hebrews, for refusing to keep the law. And we can fix that by beginning to keep the law. And we will slowly come out of that, curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Now, the worldwide wrath, the one that we read in Isaiah chapter 24, that worldwide wrath has not begun yet. And when it begins, that once his wrath begins, then your prayer, your repentance, your change of heart, none of those things will be accepted at that point, because at that point it's too late. So it's very important to clarify that, since we happen to there was some information about how to have a home fellowship, how to meet and not get entangled with money and the things of money. It's very important to also make it clear, just so that if you happen to, you are only able to find some sisters, then don't do it yet. Don't if you, it's like, it's easy to creep into the real thing. It's easy to say, let's meet and pray together, and then before you know it, you're like, okay, let's read a couple of verses. Before you realize it, here you sat explaining those verses. It will be easy for you to creep into this, and eventually Satan is going to be laughing at you because you've been tempted and you failed. So the best thing is just to avoid it, but rather, why not pray for Yah to send someone like a man of understanding that will join you. Continue to maybe share information with people and continue to pray about it. If Yah sends someone with understanding and knowledge, that person will be able to do it. But never, ever, ever. I'm basically speaking to two types of people. I don't like I'm speaking to those that will accept this and those that will not. Those that will accept it and those that will not accept it. I'm not gonna really waste my time to try to convince you, because everybody will do whatever they want to do anyways. So, but there's always a consequence. Our ancestors did whatever they want to do. Here we are today. Here we are suffering because they did whatever they want to do. They did themselves. Like people will say, do you, let me do me. Yeah, they all did themselves, and here we are doing ourselves. So never get yourself in that situation. Satan will try to create opportunity which will be presented to you as if it was an opportunity coming from Yah. Never put yourself in that situation, because again, you're going to creep into it. It's going to start with, oh, let's just meet and pray. Since we're not able to, find a teacher or whatever, let's meet and pray. And then from there, it turns into, let's read a couple of verses. And then from there, eventually, you will explain it. Eventually, there's going to be some sister there who has a lesser knowledge that will ask question. You're going to find yourself sitting there explaining the law. And that will creep in on you. And at the end of the day, you're going to be like, well, I've already done it. Let me just, It's not funny at all. The reason why I'm laughing is because I know what Satan is capable of doing. I know how this is going to be organized, arranged, and how it's going to creep in on you. Before you find it, here you are doing it. There are many, many, many other ways you can serve Yah. Oh, yes. There are many, many ways you can serve Yah. There's so many ways. You saw the example of the sister in the book of Luke. She decided to do it by, serving Yah in the house of Yah. There are different ways you can serve Yah. You can focus on young girls. You can focus on young people. There are multiple ways you can serve Yah and actually enjoy it very well. So that's just something that must be understood and be added, just in case, So all praises to our Heavenly Father. Don't do it. Don't mess with Yah's law. Don't teach Yah's law. Do not do it. You will regret it. Yah doesn't want you to do it. Yah will tempt you. He's going to tempt you. I'm telling you, the Most High will tempt you to see what you will do. Do not do it. Don't do it. Don't teach the law. Don't mess with it. Don't do it, because Yah doesn't want you to do it, and Yah is going to try to see if there has been any changes between you and Eve. Yah is going to tempt me to see if there has been any changes between me and Adam. He will tempt me. Yah will tempt me to see if there has been any changes between me and Adam. I'm always looking out for that. And it's like you have to. So I will never, ever, ever be weak. I will never, ever be ruled over by a woman. I will never, ever, ever, ever. That's not going to happen. That will not happen. That will make me a bully, right? That will make me someone that hates women. Because sometimes when people disagree with you, they start calling you names. But that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's no problem at all. I do accept that. So because when Yah does test you, He will test you with these laws. Sometimes an opportunity will present themselves. a good job will present themselves with a lot of money involved. Yeah, it's testing you. Sometimes there's different ways that we're being tempted. That's why when we pray, we say, lead us not into temptation. Why are we asking Yah not to lead us into temptation? Because Yah will tempt you. Yah will tempt you with stuff that has to do with his laws. If you are a man, Yah will tempt you with women. Yah will tempt you. You will be tempted. Because Satan is accusing you all the time. Like he did Job. Satan is accusing you who do you think you are? That you're keeping the law. Well, let's see how long you're going to keep that law. So you're always being accused. Just like he was accusing the angels before they threw him out of heaven. He was accusing the angels and they threw him out. He kept accusing them until eventually they fought, and Yah basically found him guilty and he was sent out. So now he's now down here with us and he's still accusing us. The accusation is that we are that we're lying. That's the accusation, that we're lying, that we're pretending to keep the law. Let's see how long we're going to keep it. That we're not really being honest. So that's where the temptation comes in. Oh yeah, you claim that you are righteous. You claim that you don't commit adultery. Well, let's see what happens when I send this woman your way. Let's see how you're going to handle that. Oh yeah, you claim that you're righteous. Let's see what you do when I send this man your way. You claim that you're so powerful and you're so strong in your faith that you will never break the Sabbath. Yeah, let me see what you do when I have some of my children offer you an employment that you're going to make 10 times from your regular job. See, that's what Satan is doing. That's the battle that we're fighting right now. Paul describes it as a spiritual warfare. And I really wish that you will see this. I really hope from the bottom of my heart that you will see what's going on. I'm literally translating something happening spiritually into physical, so you can see it. So what Satan is doing to us is what he has done to the angels. Good for the angels. They threw his butt out of there. They threw him out of heaven because he was accusing them all the time. Accusing the brethren. Like he accused Job in the sight of Yah. So that's an enemy. Someone who is constantly trying to put you in trouble with Yah. That's your enemy. So if you go and read the book of Job, you can clearly see that. That man was an innocent man. But you see that Satan, that's why I told you that Satan doesn't care about people that doesn't keep the law. If you're not keeping the law, Satan does not care about you. Satan only cares about those that are keeping the law. So he took notice of Job, right? And, he began to accuse Job when he understood that Job was keeping the law. So that's what he does. You see something similar that we see in the book of Revelation before he was thrown out. And now we're dwelling with him and his people, and they're doing the same thing. So the whole conversation and the talk is going on spiritually, but it manifests itself physically. Okay, that's why sometimes people will throw themselves at you. Sometimes if you're a man, a woman will throw herself at you. If you're a woman, a man will throw himself at you. Sometimes you see these situations that happen that is so strange, where something that is too good to be true will happen. And all you have to do is break the law so you can get it. A good job will come up. But the only catch in that to get that job is that you have to work on the Sabbath. So you keep seeing stuff that will be happening. That's because Satan's attitude is, you're claiming that let's see how you're going to respond to that. So that's that temptation. That is the temptation that is going to be happening. And one of the ways that if you as a man will be tempted is that Satan will try to literally either send you a wife or send you a woman that will completely try to rule over you or try to lead you. And the whole point in the whole situation is to see how you're going to respond. Have you changed from your ancestor Adam? Or are you going to do the same thing that he did? So that's the reason why when we pray, Yeshua told us this, to pray that Yah should not lead us into temptation, because you will have a much, much smoother life and less stress if Yah is not tempting you. Then you don't have to deal with all these things. You don't have to deal with all the stuff that happen, the stress that comes with trying to fend off the temptations. So Satan will try to send women your way that will try to rule over you, that will try to control you, he will try to do that. So, and that's when you're going to say, no way, no, that's not going to happen. Because if you don't do that, you're going to get in trouble just like Adam. That was his problem. He was weak. If he wasn't weak, we would not be where we are today. So he was a very weak man, and he was led by his wife. So he didn't know how to lead, he didn't rule, and Yah was very, very displeased. That's why the Most High said to him, because you listen to your wife, What did the wife say? The wife was basically teaching Adam the law. Think about it. Here you have this man that was given the law. She was not there. When she finally came around, he explains the law to her. He was the one that taught her the law. So he then leaves and then came back. She now broke the law. So when he came back, she has now broke the law. And then now she began to teach him the reason why it's okay to break the law. That was exactly what happened. So she had to explain certain things to him. What exactly was she explaining? The law of Yah. Because that's the whole point in question here. The whole point is that he was the one that told her that Yah says that we shouldn't do this. That was the commandment. So she breaks the law. When he comes back from work in the evening, she now begins to explain to him, this is the reason why you need to eat it. Basically, she's indirectly saying, forget what Yah says. This is what I think. This is what really is the deal. This is what I think. This is my interpretation of that law. Forget what Yah told you, because I've forgotten what you told me. So she now taught her husband the law. And he was a sissy. He was the very first weak man. That's why the Messiah said, because you listen to your wife. Somebody has to be talking for you to listen. The topic was the fact that she ate something that she was not supposed to. She touched and ate what she was told not to do. That was the commandment. When Yah tells you to not eat pork, Yah made a statement, don't eat pork. That's the word of Yah. That is also a commandment. That's also a law. So what he listened to, what he had listened to, was what she was saying. What she was saying was the topic on the table, which is, I know that Yah told you this about that tree. I know that Yah told you this, but this is the reason why I eat it, and this is the reason why you should eat it too. So she was now teaching the law. So have you seen the reason why Yah never ever want a woman to touch the law, or not like you can touch the law, but to teach the law? Because she was teaching Adam. I know it's easier said than done. It's easy to sit here and say that if it was me, I would do this. If it was me, I'll probably be as weak as he was. I would probably be as weak as he was. But one thing I do know, that will not happen to me. I've decided that will never happen to me again. That will never, ever, ever happen. I'm not going to be like Adam. So my rule is that any woman that comes under me, I must rule over you, meaning that you have to do exactly what I say. You must do exactly what I say, and I'm not going to be negotiating with you, debating Yah's law with you. You have to follow the scriptures exactly the way that I'm not talking about you following me. My main concern is for you to follow Yah, because if I'm following Yah and you're following His word and following Yah, that's it. That's really what I care more. That's that's my satisfaction. If you follow Yah, fine. So, and that's the steps that men need to take today, because Yah is tempting you. So unfortunately, most men are failing that test, unfortunately. And a lot of women are also failing that test. And you see that this is the difference between the women in the scriptures. What I just explained to you right now, Sarah understood this. These women in the scripture understood this. The Muslim women today, the practicing Muslim women today understood this. They totally understand it. Practicing Muslim women. There are two types of Muslims. In this world right now, there are two types of Muslims. There are those that say that they are Muslims, those who are born Muslims, but they are not practicing. And then there are those who are practicing. So when you see a practicing Muslim, a man, he will have a beard. He will most likely wear a robe. When you see a practicing Muslim woman, she will wear her veil, and she sees herself as being there to serve her husband. So that's why there's two types of Muslims. Typically, those that claim that they're Muslim but they're not practicing, they are the men that you see that shave their beard. They are the women that you see with their tight jeans, but they say they are Muslims. So they do understand this, and it will be a righteous woman need to understand it. It is what it is. That's what happened, and that's why, unfortunately, for you, you're not, uh, you know, things turned out the way. Unfortunately for us, all of us, things turned out the way it turned out. But Yah doesn't want us to, because if we do continue in the footsteps of Adam and Eve, I've said this many times, and this is the truth. If we continue to do the things that they did, we will end up not being accepted back into the presence of Yah. If we continue where they stop, this is the reason why Yeshua said that blessed are those that kept the commandment. They are the ones that will be allowed to eat from the tree of life and will be allowed to come into the city. So we can't afford to continue from where they stopped. We have to do something different. And Yah is going to be testing us. He will be testing us. And my antenna is always up. My antenna is always up. And that I am blessed. I am blessed that my immediate relatives, it's such a blessing. Yah really blessed me. It's been really helpful that I don't have to fight with them on this. Even my own mother, it's really amazing. It's really, really amazing. Even my own mother, it's just, if you hear us talk on the phone, you would not believe that that I'm talking with my mother. You would not believe it, because of the way that she carries herself, because of that Hebrew culture, the way she carries herself, and it's been wonderful for me that I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to battle with that with my female relatives. I don't have to battle with them on that, because that could be very depressing. And it helps to be around the Hebrews and be in a Hebrew culture. I remember maybe a year and a half ago, some of my relatives in my family, they they told me they needed me to give them a letter. They need a letter because they were going to court. So they went to court. There was something that they were trying to do in our family. So these are women. There's about maybe 4 of them, but these are my relatives. Now they are very old. Like they are older. They are like in their 50s and 60s and 60 something. So but in our family we are very very kind of like cultural people, traditional people. So they went to court, and the court told them that they couldn't do what they wanted to do without my permission. That they couldn't do it. The court need me to permit them to do that. So they told me, okay, we went to court, and the court told us that before they could do anything, that they need a letter from me saying that I'm authorizing my sisters to do this. Now all of them knew when I was born. So these are not like little girls. These are not like teenagers. These are grandmas. So so they say like, okay, can you give us this letter? The court is requesting that, and this is because of my position in the family. This is because of, so they need, and also because the same thing you see in the Bible is the same thing kind of like what we used to have in our culture, where the men, men are like the leaders, okay, which is the opposite in the Western culture. So so I wrote the letter, but there were some things that they were doing that I did not support on their adventure, what they were trying to do. So I told them, look, because they were trying to kind of like, there was something that they were trying to do, and some of those things I did not support. I told them, let this thing be. Let's leave it in the hands of Yah. With time, things will sort itself out. But they decided to go about it by themselves. So I'm like, okay, I will support you, but I don't support this part. So when I wrote that letter, I made it known. Like I spelled it out, I notarized the letter, and I gave it to them. I'm like, hey, I support them. I support them in going ahead to do this, but I don't support them on this area. Because they wanted to kick out some people in some property. They want to kick out some people in their property. So to me, I'm like, just leave them alone. Let them stay, okay? They're supposed to leave, they're not supposed to be there, but if they want to like stay there or whatever, then let them stay, so I had my reasons for doing that. So I specified in the letter, hey, look, I support them in all the other stuff, but in this particular area, I don't support them. So yeah. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because that's the system that understands the role of men and women. So when people tell you that America and the whole world is the same, don't worry about leaving, because the whole world is contaminated. The whole world is the same. No, the whole world is not the same. The whole world is not the same. A court in America will never ask you to go get permission of whoever like that. They will never do that just because you are a woman. The court will not do that in America. The judge will be scared to do that. So, but anyways, it is what it is. The bottom line is, don't teach the law. Do not teach the law. Even if someone is asking you to, do not teach the law. Send them a video, refer them to a video, send them a video or whatever, send them whatever, but don't teach the law. Satan will try to tempt you. That's his job, to try to tempt and trap you. And then he will say, see, you see, she is claiming that she's keeping the law. She can't even do this. She can't even do that. So you have an adversary who is always sticking around trying to get you into a trap, and then turns around and says, see, she claimed that she was keeping the law. Do not do it. There's so many other ways you can serve Yah. So many other ways, like that sister in the book of Luke. There are many, many, many ways you could have a beautiful, wonderful ministry that doesn't have to do with you sitting down and teaching the law and claiming that the Spirit told you to do so, and that, men are not doing it, so therefore I'm going to do it. It's so very easy to start coming up with all those excuses. But again, there will always be women teachers. Okay? There will always be women teachers. So that means that not everybody is going to accept this. But if you don't accept it, there's going to be consequences. You will not be allowed into the kingdom. Is a very, it's like we have a hierarchy kind of a thing, kind of like with it's not a democracy. So that's why you see that woman in John chapter 4 with the Samaritan woman asking for salvation. Yeshua could not even give her salvation unless she comes with her husband. Say, go call, where's your husband? So why is that? That's like kind of sexism, to be telling the woman that she needs a man to represent her. So that's, if you don't, that question doesn't make any sense, or that request does not make any sense. Why would she need a man for salvation? She's right here with you right now asking for salvation. So why is she being asked to go call some man somewhere? The Hebrew culture is different from the Western culture, and I'm sure that every one of us know this. The Hebrew culture is different from the Western culture and the European culture, and there's a huge conflict between the two cultures. The two cultures cannot coexist. The two cultures cannot work together. I would never be able to live in a house with an European woman, or a woman that thinks like the Europeans. It's going to be hell for both of us. Both of us will be stressed out all the time. It's not going to work. It will not work. It will not work. They will be stressed out. I will be stressed out. So the Hebrew culture cannot work along with the Gentile European culture. And when you read the Bible, you need to understand that the scriptures were written according to the Hebrew culture. The Hebrew culture are the things that Yah told us to do. Okay? And we're doing those things. Like Yah says, there should not be a whore among the children of Israel, and there should not be a sodomite. That's not our thing. We don't do that. That's not part of our culture. Okay? Another thing that we do is that we do arranged marriage. The Europeans don't do this. Okay? The Europeans, you go off and you have sex. When you're done, you engage, then you come back and tell your parents. So their culture is like so far away from our culture. And the problem that we're having today is that we are trying to bridge the two cultures together. We are trying to, because we were born in the European culture and the culture of the Gentiles. So what we are trying to do, and I see that this is what we're trying to do, we are trying to, because it's easy to do this. It's easy, trying to bring the two cultures together and really worship Yah, practicing the two culture. It will never work. It will never work, because the Western culture, the European culture is built on being against the law of Yah. It will never work. It will never, ever, ever work. So, and that is the truth. So when you read the Bible, you need to understand that it was written from a Hebrew culture, and that you are a Hebrew, and you're supposed to go back and act like the Hebrews, like you see in Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16 to 22. Jeremiah 6, 16 to 22. So until we really understand it for what it is, that it's a Hebrew culture, and there's a way that Hebrew culture works, and then we have the Western culture, the European culture that we were born and we grew up in. And we understand that we cannot mix the two cultures together, And we understand that we're supposed to now abandon the Western culture and go into the Hebrew culture. Until we begin to do that, there will always be conflict. There will always be problems. And that's when we end up with basically trying to misinterpret the scripture, basically trying to say that, well, it says that, but I think that this is the reason why it says that. So what we end up doing is that we're looking at it, okay, it says this. I think that this is the reason why it says that. So we end up going by what we think is the reason why it says that, instead of going by what it says. So instead of going by what it says, we think that this is the reason why it said that, and we end up following what we think. So yes, Yah gave us the law. I think that we don't have to keep it anymore. So I'm not going to keep it anymore. Yes, there was a law that says don't eat pork, don't eat shrimp. But the law is done away with. Where does it say that the law is done away with? Well. They can show you. Ask anybody that tells you this. They will not be able to show you any place that it says that. But they believe it. So we are trying, when we think that, I think that this is why it says this, we unfortunately, that thought is based on our understanding coming from the Gentiles. That is the truth. The point of this whole thing is that many of us have really made a lot of commitment. Okay? You have given up certain things. You gave up the way you used to dress. You gave up a lot of things. I don't want you for those things to be in vain. That will not be a good thing, for your efforts to be in vain. I know that according to Ezekiel chapter 18, you should read Ezekiel 18. You should know about Ezekiel chapter 18. You must know about Ezekiel chapter 18. Ezekiel chapter 18. Read the whole chapter. So I don't want you to make all this commitment and do all these things, and you've been doing all this thing and you're growing. You keep growing. What you know right now is not what you knew last year. What you know right now was not what you knew last year. What you knew now was not what you knew 2 years ago. And what you're going to know a year from now is not what you know now. So you're growing. We are in this journey and we're growing. The last thing we want is to be in a situation where we will do all these things, refuse to do all these things, and give up on all this pleasure, give up on all this stuff, pleasure that we could have been joining other people to enjoy. We give up on all these things, and at the end of the day, it becomes in vain, just because of some ridiculous thing that doesn't make any sense. Something as simple as, you're teaching the Bible and you're supposed to do that. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. But all praises to our Heavenly Father. I really hope that you will understand this and that you will accept it. For those that will accept, as I said, not everybody will. There will always, hey, listen, 50 years from now, you're going to see women teaching the Bible. Okay? It's going to get worse. Because now you're beginning to see pastors putting themselves out with their wives in their posters and stuff. So it's no longer the pastors, pastor and pastor. Pastor do this and pastor this. So they're pastoring together, which is, of course, is a pagan religion. Christianity is a pagan religion. So doesn't make any sense for you to make all this effort. At the end of the day, you get rejected because of something as simple as that you're teaching the law or something. That just, to me, it's not worth it. It's not, I mean, if you're going to be rejected, at least be rejected for something that is tangible, not something as ridiculous as that you're teaching the Bible. What are you going to gain? The ego that you're teaching the Bible, like as a woman, that what a man can do, you can do. That's the mentality. Well, men can do it, I can do it too. But you have to understand that we have limits. There are things that I cannot do as a woman. There are things that I cannot do as a woman. And I do know my limit. I totally understand. I accept my limit. There are certain things that are meant for women that I cannot do. And if I do go ahead and do it, that may end up being a sin in the sight of Yah. So I know my position, I know my level, I know my place. I want to stick to my place. And if someone comes to me and try to get me to leave my place and go take another place, I'm going to be like, no, thank you very much. Thank you very much. No. So all praises to our Heavenly Father. This is going to come up sometime in your future, but it will be a temptation. I hope you'll be able to see it. I hope you'll be able to avoid it. Sometimes some sisters will refer people, hey, I know this brother. He's interested in the truth. They like, so refer that person to someone. Refer that person or share a video with them, but if they come back and they try to put you into a spot and make you to teach them, don't do that, because it's going to be a temptation, and it will be laughable to be brought down because of something like that. Something that there's really nothing you're going to gain, unless if they're paying you money to teach them, at least you're getting some money. But if it's just ego, no, it's not worth it. So all praises to our Heavenly Father.